Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, for calling me to make my maiden speech to the House today. To begin with, I want to pay tribute to my predecessor, Roberta Blackman-Woods. Roberta served the constituency for 14 years and was a tireless advocate for the people of Durham. Most recently, she was Shadow Minister for Housing and Planning. Roberta was passionate about the work and highly respected for it. And I want to say on a personal level that she has been a great help to me recently, and I wish her all the best in the next phase of her life. It's an enormous privilege to be the Member of Parliament for the wonderful City of Durham. And I want to thank the constituency Labour Party members for their hard work and support in ensuring that I was elected, and to the constituents who have placed their trust in me. And I must also thank my family who have supported me throughout my life. Durham has an incredible heritage. It's impossible not to be inspired when you see the cathedral on the horizon, and it's so central to the life of the city. And it's fitting that the cathedral is now surrounded on all sides by the world-renowned Durham University, providing essential jobs and technology, linking Durham to all parts of the world and giving our city a real vibrancy. And Durham has another history that needs to be celebrated. It's mining heritage. And it's a tradition which prides itself on resilience, forged by the trade union movement. All of that is encapsulated in the Durham Miners' Gala, when banners from the villages that surround the city are proudly paraded through the streets, accompanied by brass bands. And yes, I hope the Honourable Member for Surrey Heath has now learned that it's held in our constituency, which is very much still Labour. To prepare for this speech, I read that of my predecessor, Roberta, and her predecessor, Jerry Steinberg, and it was fascinating. Jerry's speech was made in 1987. He talked about the devastating levels of unemployment after the closure of the coal mines and the refusal of the Thatcher administration to tackle the resulting insecurity in people's lives and work. This was a time of deindustrialisation, a widening north-south divide, trade unions being crushed, a rundown NHS, and the poll tax on the horizon. In contrast, my immediate predecessor, Roberta, gave her speech in 2005, 8 years into a Labour government. She referred to unemployment being halved, the minimum wage, GCSE results improvement, and a new state-of-the-art further education college being built, as well as a hospital and secondary schools. It could have been a different country. And then I reflected on my life during those periods. These were the experiences that made me the socialist that I am. In 1987, I had just finished a youth training scheme. I was in insecure work, and shortly after, I was made redundant. My dad, too, thrown on the scrap heap after Swan Hunters shipyards closed. Then in 1989, my first daughter came into the world, born 10 weeks premature and needing a ventilator before she could breathe on her own. Unfortunately, this basic piece of equipment wasn't available at the hospital, nor was it available in any of the surrounding hospitals. This was a direct result of deliberately running down the NHS. Eventually, a ventilator was located 30 miles away, and Maria was born 3 hours later by emergency C-section. She suffered brain damage and lived her whole life with severe cerebral palsy. Madam Deputy Speaker, the policies of government greatly affect the lives of ordinary people. The actions of the Conservatives and their former coalition partners have seen the stalling of the increase in life expectancy. This is extraordinary, and it hasn't happened since 1900. Labour has been accused of wanting to take us back to the 1970s, while the Conservatives have taken us back to the 19th century. Last week, the Marmot report on health inequalities showed the impact of austerity, something which I've seen firsthand. In my constituency, a child born in Sherburn Road Estate can expect to live 15 years fewer than a child born in the most affluent part of the city, just a couple of miles away. Even more shocking, a recent report in the British Medical Journal showed that inequalities in infant deaths between the most deprived local authorities, which includes County Durham, and the rest, which decreased sharply during the last Labour government, have now started to increase under Conservative austerity. Just what kind of society is being created? Madam Deputy Speaker, there are families in the former pit villages of Ushamoor, Coxoe, Brandon and others in my constituency who are trapped in poverty. Children and grandchildren of those miners who built the wealth of this country are now having to use food banks and undergoing a cruel benefits regime. Is it any wonder that the police have reported that the main issue affecting these communities is male suicide? Improving health in Britain is not just about refurbishing hospitals. It's about having a good education, a secure and loving home, and a regular source of income. Until we address these social issues, we won't see any substantial changes in public health. As Professor Marmot says, why treat people and send them back to the conditions that make them sick? Labour has a strategy, oven ready you might say, to tackle these injustices and build a fairer, more equal society. It was laid out in our manifesto. Unfortunately, we're not able to deliver it yet, but that won't stop us from holding this government to account or campaigning for a better society. And my pledge to those who feel the harsh impact of Tory austerity, those who will feel these health inequalities hardest, is that I will fight for them, because I haven't come to this place just to lay out the problems. I and my party will be part of the solution. The City of Durham is steeped in history, but it's the future we fight for. The motto of the Durham miners may be 150 years old, but it was adopted by people who also suffered defeats and setbacks, but who carried on their struggle and, over time, won improvements in their industry and in the lives of entire communities. And this motto is still very apt, and it's one that I hold close to my heart as I start my parliamentary journey. The past we inherit, the future we build.